I call to order this regular meeting of the Board of Public Works this Monday, November 7th. I open it first with messages from board members. Do we have any messages from the board? I'll just say, since we're on election eve, I hope everyone makes it out to the polls if you haven't already, and take the opportunity to have your voice heard. So please go to the polls tomorrow. Next up is petitions and remonstrances. If we have anyone who is here to make a public comment about something that is not on our agenda this evening, now is the opportunity to do so. If you are on Zoom, you're welcome to use the chat function or the raised hand function to let us know if you'd like to make a comment.
We only have one member on Zoom, and there are no raised hands or chats.
Thank you. Next up is the consent agenda. Under the consent agenda is the approval of minutes for October 25th of 2022. Resolution 2022-81, Renew Mobile Vendor, Pappy Shack. Resolution 2023-82, should that be 2022-82?
It should. That needs to be corrected.
All right. Resolution 2022-82, Canopy of Lights. Addendum number 5 to Agreement for the Purchase and Delivery of Fuel. Supplement number 1 to 2022 Economy Pest Control Service Agreement. Supplement number 1 to 2022 Indiana Door and Hardware Service Agreement. Supplement number 2 to 2022 HFI HVAC Service Agreement. 2023 Service Agreement with Bounds Flooring. 2023 Service Agreement with Bruce Home Improvements. 2023 Service Agreement with Commercial Service. 2023 Service Agreement with Trinkle Snow Plowing, and approval of payroll. Do we have any items that need to be removed from the consent agenda this evening? Seeing none. Do we have any public comment on any items within the consent agenda? Again, on Zoom, you could use raised hand or chat function.
None on Zoom.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have a motion on the consent agenda?
I move that we pass tonight's consent agenda for tonight's meeting, November 7, 2022.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next up, under new business, first is Resolution 2022-84, Renew Mobile Vendor Community Kitchen Food Truck. And I did want to announce that I'm recusing myself from this vote as I serve on the board of the Community Kitchen.
April Rosenberger, Public Works, presenting for ESD. This is a renewal to the community food truck, community kitchen food truck, excuse me. They've had one last year, and I believe probably for several years. And ESD has reviewed the application and is supportive of the request.
Any comments from the board on this item?
No.
Nope. Any comments from the public on this item?
No public comment.
Seeing none, is there a motion?
Yes. I move that we approve Resolution 2022-84, Renew Mobile Vendor Community Kitchen Food Truck.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Did we need a second for that?
I'm sorry. Yes, I am a second.
Aye.
Sorry about that.
All right, thank you. Next up is street closure request from Gillette General Contractors along South Grant Street, north of East 3rd Street. This is November 8th, 2022 through April 15th of 2023.
Good evening, Paul Kerber with engineering. Gillette General Contractors is currently building a new mixed-use development along South Grant Street, just north of East 3rd Street. This is on both the east and west sides of Grant Street. And now that various other city projects have been completed, they're requesting a full street closure as well as the adjacent sidewalks along South Grant Street. This is just north of 3rd to the mid-block alley. During these closures, they will be doing a new water main, water service to both buildings, stormwater infrastructure, new curbs and sidewalks, and also resurfacing Grant Street. The closures are requested from November 8th through April 15th of 2023. And in the future, they will have sidewalk closures along East 3rd Street forthcoming. They've sent notifications to the adjacent properties to let them know about the closure. I'd also like to thank Tom Rittman and Gillette for working with city staff to coordinate all the closures throughout the various city projects that have been in the area. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and Tom Rittman's also here.
Thanks. Questions from the board on this item? I would just echo the thanks. I know it's been a very busy time in this corridor with a lot of different projects, and glad to see that there's that coordinated effort to try to spread those closures out to the best of our ability. So appreciate that from Gillette as well. Any public comment on this item? Again, if you're on Zoom, you can use chat or raised hand function.
No comment on Zoom.
All right, seeing none, is there a motion?
I move that we approve the street closure request from Gillette General Contractors along South Grant Street, north of East 3rd Street, from November 8th, 2022 to April 15th, 2023.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next up is sidewalk closure request from Gillette General Contractors at 3391 South Walnut Street. This is November 8th of 2022 through April 15th of 2023.
Paul Gerber with engineering again. Gillette General Contractors is working on a project at 3391 South Walnut Street, and they're requesting the sidewalk closure adjacent to their site. This is from Roar Road, north of Roar Road, in that section of South Walnut Street. And over the course of construction, Gillette will be installing new stormwater infrastructure, a new entrance, concrete curbs, landscaping, and also a new 10-foot sidewalk adjacent to their site. And the sidewalk will be closed from November 8th, 2022 to April 15th of 2023. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks. Questions from the board on this item? And as we discussed during the work session, this is actually a section of non-contiguous sidewalk. It's like a couple fragmented pieces of sidewalk that this project will actually add a full stretch of sidewalk, correct?
It still won't complete the full section, but yes, it'll add new sidewalk in the area.
Okay, so it'll get us closer to having sidewalk there. It's also right on the edge of the city, right?
Yes.
Like this is kind of the end of the city line, if I'm not mistaken.
It's close to it, yeah. Yeah, there's a few more sections of sidewalk to add, but yeah.
Any public comment on this item? Again,
None on Zoom.
Nothing on Zoom, okay. All right, seeing none, is there a motion?
I move that we approve the sidewalk closure request from Gillette General Contractors at 3391 South Walnut Street from November 8th, 2022 to April 15, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks. Next up is lane and sidewalk closure request from AEG.
Jason Kerr with engineering, bringing forward 4 permits for AEG for lane and sidewalk closures. Areas involve Gentry Boulevard, South Wingfield Drive, and 2 areas bordering and following South College Mall Road. Lane and sidewalk closures will progress as the work progresses as well within these areas. They do have maintenance and traffic plans with us, and we feel this is acceptable. Any questions?
Thank you. Questions from the board on this item?
This isn't a question, but I just want to reiterate for the actual meeting what you had said earlier about if there have been comments from the community, you feel like the firms have been really responsive.
Correct, yes. One sticks out in my mind, there was some debris on a sidewalk. They were on to it, I believe, within the next day or 2 and took care of that issue.
That's
So
great.
yeah, I believe they're pretty prompt on their replies.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And in most of these areas, is there sidewalk on the opposite side of the street or places where people can kind of traverse as needed? I know they're working with people as they need to get around, but.
Right, they're blocking what they need to, but in the areas where, so far where they've worked, where there was sidewalk on the north, say the south side, like such as Atwater was this, where this situation was, there was a northern sidewalk area that they could use.
Right.
So they weren't per se blocked totally.
Yeah, I was thinking about College Mall Road, gets a fair amount of pedestrian traffic of people getting, from one shopping center to
Right.
another or something like that.
I
But
believe
there are
most-
definitely two
Yeah, that's a good
areas
example. Yeah,
that-
there's one on both east and west side there to use, so, yeah. They should have roundabout, or ways to get around the work sessions.
Any public comment on this item?
No comment on Zoom.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the lane and sidewalk closure requests from AEG.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks. Next is contract with Rivertown Construction LLC for the Henderson Street Neighborhood Greenway Project.
Thanks.
Good evening, this is Sarah Gomez, Project Manager for the Engineering Department. Coming to the Board of Public Works for contract award approval for the Henderson Street Greenway Project. This project will construct sidewalk, alley apron, curb ramps, pavement markings, and signs and on the west side of Henderson Street between 2nd and Smith Avenue. This project is listed as a high-priority bicycle network connection in the city's transportation plan, and the project provides a connection for the east-west Smith-Hunter Neighborhood Greenway. This is currently not feasible for bicyclists for the connection when traveling eastbound due to the one-way configuration of Henderson. The project will be funded by ARPA, and construction will be in 2023. The northbound traffic lane of Henderson Street from 2nd to Smith Avenue will be closed and a detour route will be in place on Lincoln to 3rd Street. The sidewalk on the east side of Henderson will remain open for the duration of construction. The project will run for 45 days and it has a completion date of August 1st, 2023. Bids were received and opened at a public meeting on Thursday, November 3rd of 2022. And the boards received 4 bids. Rivertown Construction LLC for $193,994.54. E&B Paving LLC, $212,500. Milestone Contractors LP, $225,500. And Kreider Incorporated for $346,772.25. Rivertown Construction LLC has the apparent lowest and responsive bid. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions on this item? Any public comment on this item?
No comment on Zoom.
Yes. And if you can just state your name for our record?
Dave Askins with the B Square Bulletin. I just had a question about this project. I was trying to find it in the transportation plan, and I think I did find it in the high priority network map. And it looks to me like it's designated for a future protected bike lane. And I just wanted to confirm that that's not what this project is. From the description, it doesn't sound like there's any intent to install a protected bike lane. And this is probably a better question for planning and transportation than for engineering, because engineering, they've got the project, they've got the plans, their job is to build the thing, not to decide whether they think it ought to be built. So I'm just wondering about that. And I guess if anybody in the room knows something about the history of the project that would explain whether it really is supposed to be, whether it was thought at one time, maybe it could be, according to the plan, a protected bike lane, or knows anything about the history of this, that would be great to know. Otherwise, I'll follow up with whoever I can find. Thanks.
Great, thank you.
Sarah Gomez again. I'm happy to try to answer the question as much as I can. So this will not be a protected bike lane in the sense of what was just installed on 7th Street, but it will be protected as in there'll be a widened sidewalk for bicyclists to use, and there'll be also a crossing to on Henderson for a safer crossing to Hunter, and then there'll be ramps as well at Hunter to cross over. So it'll basically be kind of a raised bike lane per se, and then it meets back down with the street just south of Hunter, where there'll just be paint markings as the protected portion of the bike lane that's in the street. And that's so that the bicyclists can go north and south on Henderson again, so because, you know, Henderson is a one-way northbound at that point. So hopefully that helps a bit with your question. It does. Thank you so much. You're very welcome.
Thanks. Any other questions on this item? Okay. Any other public comments? Nothing on Zoom, I think you were saying?
We do not have anybody other than city staff on the Zoom right now.
Okay, thanks. Is there a motion on this item?
I move that we approve the contract with Rivertown Construction LLC for the Henderson Street Neighborhood Greenway Project.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks. Next up is change order number 1 for the Hopewell Phase 1 East Demolition Project.
Good evening, Matt Smothers with the Engineering Department. The Hopewell Phase 1 East Demolition Project was awarded to Renaissance Inc., and the project included the demolition of existing houses and buildings on the site. Change order number 1 is for the removal of non-friable asbestos-containing concrete blocks and the removal and disposal of deleterious materials under 3 buildings. The change order would result in an increase to the contract of $63,374.21, making the new contract sum $652,129.23. This project is funded through the Redevelopment Commission, and the change order is contingent upon approval from the Redevelopment Commission.
Thanks. Questions on this item? Any public comment on this item?
No.
Is there a motion?
I move that we approve change order number 1 for the Hopewell Phase 1 East Demolition Project.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next up is addendum number 1 to preliminary engineering contract with Shrewsbury for Bloomington Hospital Reuse BHRU Infrastructure and Site Engineering Phase 1 East Project. And I think we have your your counterpart. It was good timing.
Items went a little faster at the RDC than expected. Patrick Durgis with engineering. You'll have to give me just a moment, but all right, so for the Hopewell Phase 1 East project, when we reached nearly 95% design, we had a change in negotiations with council that caused a near redesign of both the water, sanitary, and storm infrastructure for the site because of reconfiguration of the lots and also the addition of the alleys. Because of that, we had to do a redesign, and so a lot of these fees are based upon that redesign. We also had a few other items, just walking through them real quick. Additional structural design for some retaining walls that ended up being part of the design that were not initially accounted for. Also, security and surveillance system that was added. We had initially considered possibly putting in the underground infrastructure to add this in the future, but as we progressed with the design and in coordination with Parks, desire to have surveillance for the area was deemed necessary. And then ITS has an effort taking place right now to add Wi-Fi to a lot of city parks, and so we wanted to take the effort to do that now. Basically, the Wi-Fi and the cameras kind of go hand in hand. You have to have the Wi-Fi or at least fiber for the cameras. So adding the Wi-Fi is a, and this is just for the design. This is not actually for the equipment or anything like that. And then there was additional lighting design for Centerstone's parking lot. And then we also, at the end of demolition, I don't know if you all have seen the site, but the landscape has changed significantly. And during the design, we made some assumptions of how the building foundations would be deleted. And so after seeing the site, it was such a, I don't know, at least for me, it was such a significant change that we started looking back at basically to do earthwork quantities. We take the existing surface and a proposed surface and compare them to come up with the amount of earthwork necessary for the project. And so seeing the site, we decided that we should see how much it would cost to do additional survey of the site to make sure our earthwork numbers are accurate. The site was working out to be pretty close to a balance, and so that could be a significant cost savings if we didn't have to import fill into the site. And so for $3,200, we were able to get a full new survey of the site. And so that is a very small number of truckloads of new dirt. So we thought it was worth it to include that in this project. I believe that covers all of the items covered in the change order. This also deletes a lot of allowances that were also in the contract. Knowing the contract scope, we had allowances for a number of different items. And so while the total change order would have been around $90,000, with the deduction of all the allowances, the total amount is now the total change is $35,637 for a new not to exceed contract amount of $1,084,517. Available for any questions.
Thank you. Questions from the board on this item? Since we just met, mere hour ago, do you have an update for us from the RDC? Did they?
Yes, the RDC approved the funding.
Okay. All right. Any public comment on this item?
There's no comment on Zoom.
Thanks. Do we have a motion?
I move that we approve addendum number 1 to the preliminary engineering contract with Shrewsbury for Bloomington Hospital Reuse Infrastructure and Site Engineering Phase 1 East Project.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks. Next up is the contract with HFI for City Hall chiller replacement.
J.D. Borff, Public Works Facilities. Here tonight to request the board's permission to enter a contract for the replacement of the chilled water system here at City Hall. This is a primary component of the air conditioning for the city council chambers. And this unit was installed during the, I think, 1995 remodel of the Showers building. It's reached the end of its lifespan, and HFI has installed the system originally, maintained it since installation. So the controller's office approved the sole source contract for this. We're asking that the contract be awarded to Harold Fish Incorporated for $88,350.
Thank you. Questions on this item?
No.
Any public comment on this item?
There's no comment on Zoom.
Seeing none, is there a motion?
I move that we approve the contract with HFI for the City Hall chiller replacement.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks. Next up is staff reports and other business.
I have no outstanding staff reports except for to urge people to go vote tomorrow.
Thanks. Next up is approval of claims. Are there any questions from the board on claims? Any public comment on claims?
No public comment on Zoom.
Seeing none. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve claims in the amount of $731,381.40.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. And if there's nothing else this evening, then I will call for adjournment.